Let's move on to our main topic tonight, and that is Stanford's 2026 AI Index Report.
Yeah.
This is the HAI AI Index Report. It's the most comprehensive annual snapshot of where artificial intelligence actually stands, covering everything from technical benchmarks to investment dollars to public opinion across 30 countries. This year's edition finds AI moving decisively from lab curiosity to real-world deployment, with frontier models now performing at expert human level on medical diagnosis, mathematical reasoning, and of course software engineering tasks. The big tension in this report surfaces is that AI capability is advancing faster than our ability to govern it, and the public is significantly more anxious about that gap than experts building the technology.
That's clear on any social media platform. I mean, that's true. Like the advancements are fast while you're looking that up. But at the same time, they can't count letters in a word. They can't tell time, for example, right?
Exactly.
One thing I want to jump into before we even read this is one of those things where I will start talking about fatal abstractions. What I'm always wondering, I didn't get a chance to read the whole report, which I need to do, but what are we actually talking about when we're talking about AI? And it seems we're often just talking about large language models.
Yeah.
So that's something we need to be clear on. But AI itself covers a wide swath, right, of subdomains.
Yeah.
We just need to be aware of that because that term gets thrown around so much that it's become branded. So the people that have fear, they have fear of the abstract term and not of a specific application.
Yeah,
and that's horrible marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like we should be clear what we mean. It's easy to slip into that because they're using AI like they use Google, right? Like you just throw Google around, Google the thing. It's become a search term.
Yeah. Well,
AI's
people overlook the fact that AI has been around for a while. Like, we've had rudimentary AI for quite a long time. And, these algorithms that have been around for years feeding you Facebook media, that kind of stuff. That's AI. It's AI. It's just a little bit more rudimentary than the LLMs. Okay. So let's get into this report. I think there's 12 points here that we're going to kind of dig into just a little bit, but let's look at the most power hungry models. What do you see any trends here? I mean, there's obviously a pretty much up and to the right line from year to year, right?
I see Grok at the top right. Is that right?
Yeah, Grok 3.
I guess it takes a lot of power to tell the truth, right? that's the positioning anyway.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah. And then
I mean, the open source models up there, that's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they all take a lot of power, right? They're all pretty power hungry is the point you would take away. And I know on my Opus 4.7, it's already warning me, you should try it, but by using it, your usage limits will be used up faster, right? So you will reach them faster. So
I noticed on like even Sonnet if you just chat with Claude today, it now instead of says, it used to say you could either choose between not extended or extended, and now it says adaptive ever since the new release came out.
Yeah.
So Sonnet's adaptive.
Well, there's kind of like this conspiracy theory out there, and sometimes the way Claude is behaving, it makes you think maybe there's something to it. People are saying that it's shortening its messages, telling you you're done with your idea before you're actually done with it.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen to me where it's a little bit strange. Like, dude, you're being rude, man. Claude, chill out, right? Like, I'm not done with my idea. And I swear the other day it was, I'm a night bird, or night owl, right? So around 1 o'clock, you're done. Basically is what it said. You need to go to bed. That's what it told me, literally. Yeah. So I think people get suspicious because they know, we talked about this last week about Claude Mythos. One of the theories why it didn't come out is because they don't have enough compute. And are they training it to save power? I don't know, but there's a hell of a business incentive to do that.
Well, I told it to read this Stanford report, which is about 400 pages, and it read 20 pages. It gave me a report and it said, it gave me a summary of the first chapter. So I immediately go, did you read the whole thing, Claude? And it goes, no, I only read the first 20 pages. Let me do the rest now.
Oh, that's another failure mode, by the way. When you give it like I used to work on my books with it, read the whole book, give me some pointers, areas where it could be better. It doesn't read the whole thing. It just kind of extrapolates from one chapter. Like, damn, am I such a bad writer that after one chapter, you know the whole book? But that's another one of those confabulating things, right? Where it's telling you it's doing something, it's going through the motions, and it's in that gray text, that light gray text where it's like spinning the wheels, like it's doing something, but it's not. So it's basically like a corporate worker that sits at its desk. Sarah, the person sits at the screen, stares at the screen, And the whole game is to look busy, but not actually be doing anything for 8 hours.
It's a good point. It is remarkable how well these things are mimicking human behavior.
AGI is here. See, it's already here. It lies. It's lazy.
So here's an interesting one. This is the China-U.S. lead evaporates is the title of this slide here, and this is just showing that the pink line here is China's progress in AI, powerful AI. And I don't really know. They're saying this is an ELO-like score, which is like a chess. That's how you measure chess champions is ELO. So they're saying this is the ELO for China, and this is the ELO for the U.S., and we have now pretty much.
Where's Magnus? Magnus is at the top right.
Yeah, he's Swedish, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think they're on this chart yet, but but he'd be.
They don't need one. They got Magnus.
That's right. He's making all their decisions, big brain. So this is interesting, and I want you to keep this in mind for later when we come to the amount of money spent slide. So this coupled with that slide is pretty telling. So this is called America's draw fades, and what this is talking about is the influx to these countries of researchers and developers for AI specifically. So if you'll go down here, the United States was by far the most desirable place to be to study AI or research and develop it until just very recently. We have now plummeted. Nobody seems to want to come here anymore. I don't know why.
Well, let's read that properly. I want to make sure I'm understanding it properly. Is that newcomers every year?
I believe so.
That because you could read that as it's saturated. They're already all here.
Yeah, let's see. The U.S. is home to the most AI researchers and developers of any country by far, but the flow of these experts into the country is dramatically slowing. The number of AI scholars moving to the United States has dropped 89% since 2017.
Yeah. But see, this is a good example of graphs being misleading.
Yeah.
Because you might take that to be like, oh, they're all leaving. No,
right.
This is like Congress telling you it's cutting spending, right? When they tell you they're cutting spending, they're cutting the rate of increase. So it looks like spending dropped off a cliff, but no,
that's a good point.
They just slowed the rate of increase, and that could be bad or good, right? I don't know how to interpret that. This is priors again. Do I interpret that as we're no longer attractive, or are we just saturated? There are no more jobs. I find that hard to believe, by the way. There are no more jobs because they're hiring like crazy, which is ironic because these foundation labs are screaming AI is going to take all the jobs, yet they're hiring like crazy.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
So let me just lay this out here. So India has a negative 16.92. That's their rate is negative 16.92. And then the next highest outside the U.S. is 5.17 in the U.K. But we're still 26. Like we're still monstrous compared to all those. So yeah.
Yeah. See the vertical axis changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, these aren't the same. Absolutely. That's a good catch. Good catch. Think back to that slide where China's really close to us on how powerful their models are, and then look at where their spending is on this one. This is the AI investment surge. This is the countries with the most investing dollars. Obviously, the United States are way out in front. How do you take that?
It's not military spending.
Yeah, right. No, this is private investment.
I think it's also structural too. What I'd be curious about, it's not here, is are they including government dollars in investment, or is this private investment?
No, this is specifically private, it says.
Yeah, so that's VC. I mean, America's known for having a war chest when it comes to VC.
Yeah.
I wonder how much, research investment there is from the governments there. That's something I would want to look at. And since they're going at an open source, you can think of it like this. This is that trickle-down effect. America goes out, takes all the risk, spends all the money, does the development, and then the technology trickles out. Now, some people will say they're stealing it. Regardless, this happens no matter what anyway, because these labs, one of the things that happens, their best employees leave. Why did they leave? Well, they probably have a low chance of moving up at that company, and they're being poached, which is I think most individuals can understand that. If somebody comes in, puts a pile of cash in front of you, you can go out and, start your own company. That's how Anthropic started, basically, right?
Yeah.
And this is happening over and over and over. So that's one of the ways that even though America's spending all that money, IP leaks, knowledge leaks, because companies have a very hard time holding it.
Yeah.
I know that's probably not where you thought we'd go with that, but that's one of the thoughts I had is, why aren't we seeing that lead? It could be because the charts are only looking at a specific thing. Like you showed there, they're looking at that ELO model, I think you said. Yeah. There are other criteria by which you judge how close they are to each other. There are economists out there that say actually America's really far ahead.
right?
It just depends on the test,
Well, we've made it
right?
really hard for China. Well, not impossible, but hard for China to get the good chips, the good, from
Yeah.
NVIDIA, because those are made in Taiwan, TSMC, right next door to China, but they can't be sold to China. We've got an embargo on them.
It could
So,
backfire if China learns another way to reach the same results cheaper, right?
I was reading this paragraph here
Yeah.
while you were talking, and this does state that the Chinese government channels resources through government guidance funds, because again, this is a private only, it's not looking at public money. And it's
Yeah.
saying that China between 2000 and 2023, it's invested 912 billion into these funds, but it's across multiple
Yeah.
industries, including AI.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
including government investment, AI in China could be as high as the United States. It's unclear. It's hard to say.
Yeah. It's unclear. It's not the most transparent regime over there.
Yeah, but that's a good caveat. And again, the graph is a little bit misleading. Entry level squeeze. So this is normalized headcount trends by age group for software developers and customer service segments. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, this is our people getting replaced by AI right here. So early career, we're going to be looking at this dark blue color, which I believe is this, and then this line here. So these are the two early career lines, and they're definitely declining where everyone else is actually on the rise for both software developers and customer support. But you can see here, software developers. I've been talking about this. Junior software engineers are those jobs are just really hard to come by for newly graduated people. Like, why
Yeah.
would you hire them right now when you don't know if AI can just do it and you can have a senior guy look at it all? So that's really, really telling.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to now feelings on AI. Frenemies? An interesting title, but this does have some interesting data in it right here. So the global expectations for AI are in blue here. You're going to see this is create new jobs and new ways of working versus the pink, which is eliminate jobs and disrupt industries. Okay. So the global consensus is that half and half, that it's going to create new jobs and ways of working. And it's also half of the people who are saying it's going to eliminate jobs and disrupt industries. Now, my question is why is the United States the most heavily invested, the most progressed AI nation, and we are way down here where we think very much so in the majority that we're going to eliminate jobs and disrupt industries? Is that because we have more foresight or we have more knowledge about it, so therefore, or is it being marketed incorrectly?
That could be yes, yes, yes.
Fair.
So what I would say is, let me give you an analogy. When I was in Germany, I lived there 7 years. And the whole time people were running around saying American companies do not respect European privacy. They don't value our privacy. And everybody's saying this while holding a Google phone, while using Google Maps. It reminds me of this story when I was in Russia. This guy ran up to me while we were eating in a McDonald's, of course, because we're Americans. And this Russian looked at me in Russian and said, I hate Americans. I look at the guy. He has a McDonald's. He's in McDonald's, first of all, right? Nike hat on, Levi's jeans on, Nike shoes. You're like, what
Yeah.
the hell, dude? So my point of saying those two brief stories was, or telling those two brief stories was simply that there's often a dichotomy between what people say and what they do. Americans, I find it interesting that they're the least optimistic when it comes to creating jobs. That goes to the point of the marketing has been constantly, and this is what's interesting. This is one of my favorite authors of all time was Anton Chekhov. And he used to write these stories where people say the same exact same thing, but mean totally different things by them.
Yeah.
So imagine this. Somebody sitting more in the tech bro territory is saying AI is going to take all the jobs. They're seeing that as positive. They're like, yes, the UBI that Elon is talking about, that's coming, right? This is going to be a post-scarcity world.
Yeah.
In a year, nobody's going to be working. Everything is cool. I'm ready to lose my job. Let's say you sit maybe a little bit to the left, right? You hear AI is going to take all the jobs, and your heart goes out to all those people losing jobs. And then that goes back to your point earlier of, well, what happens to those people if they lose jobs? Will there be a UBI yet? Will there actually be such abundance yet? Or are they going to be on the public dole? There's going to be a lot of displacement and mental health problems and substance abuse that comes with that. I don't know is the answer. That was a long way of saying that when you get to public sentiment, the behavior often departs from the actual words. And so I think that's a good example of show your priors. revealed preference comes when people do the behavior. And probably if you looked at adoption, the US is ahead on Gen AI adoption. So that's a disconnect. So they're using it, but have a sort of mixed sentiment about it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
The Nigeria one is what I find fascinating. I traveled to Africa. I don't know if I told you that, but the amount of entrepreneurial spirit over there, and people just really willing to run against walls, super technical. They're way ahead on like financial applications, fintech, etc. And that's interesting because they see it as an absolute opportunity because for them, they might be able to leapfrog Europe, who's putting kind of the brakes on.
Yeah.
I think the reason people freak out about that United States number is they're thinking, oh my God, we're going to lose. But if you
Yeah.
go back to that chart earlier, it might be because we're already ahead by so much. I don't know.
It's a good point. I mean, it could be a look at, you know, AI kind of will level the playing fields for countries, and the U.S. has been in the lead of the world order for quite a while. So, you know,
Yeah. Well, at
that
least
could
there
be.
may be some niche applications where certain companies or countries can dominate and specialize. That's what economics is all about, specialization and trade, right? So,
Absolutely. All right, let's look at adoption rates here. So, generative AI more popular than the internet, and this is just adoption rates for technologies over time. I think right now the stat is it's right here. AI has reached 53% population adoption. I think that's globally within 3 years, which is faster than the personal computer or the internet. Though the pace varies
yeah,
by country and correlates with strongly with GDP per capita.
everybody's negative about it, but using it. That's what we were kind of talking about it. I don't know what they're using it for, right? This is always the question on these stats. Are they using it for their personal assistant, a personal partner? What are they using it for?
Yeah.
They're using it for productivity, or are they using it like a time sink? I have no idea, but it's interesting. Again, these graphs, you don't know how are you supposed to interpret them when it comes to the economy or to business models. If I'm a startup, how do I interpret this? Does that mean it's good or is it bad? I don't know.
I don't know. I was on my boyfriend is a AI subreddit today. Interesting slice of life. I'll tell you that. Okay. The self-education wave. This is high school students Gen AI uses for schoolwork. So you'll see most of them are conducting research and finding resources, or editing and revising essays, brainstorming ideas. And then we also
Yeah.
have explaining complex topics, learning languages, and writing code, and then other. But I mean, that lines up with what I would expect. I mean, that's kind of what I use it for with work. Is I help it it helps me do research and finding sources, and it helps me rewrite emails. I mean, that's what I
Well,
use it for.
you have this debate, right? And it's not a debate among the kids. The kids are using it left and right because it's helpful.
Yeah,
And let's be honest, my parents are both teachers. Not every teacher is gifted at teaching things. Or they have big classes and they can't explain it very well because they're
yeah,
distracted. There are all kinds of reasons why some students may not get the point. Now with AI, they can go home and get it faster, provided it's telling the truth, right? And facts and the right, they're using the right resources. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you look at it. The kids are adopting this faster. They tend to adopt technology faster, it
yeah.
seems like.
Well, I think it was
TikTok
part
on
of
all of
this
them, right?
larger study, and they found
Yeah.
that the quality of the output you get is heavily dependent upon the quality of input.
Yeah.
So someone in a very highly expert, like I think biochem was the field that they were referencing. If you're an expert in biochem and you're prompting AI to help you in biochem related, you're going to get really high quality results. Whereas if I was asking AI about biochem, my results are going to be pretty poor.
Of course.
So
So
that has a lot to do with it too.
prompting is the skill, right? So it's the new coding
Yeah.
skill. And
So
that means maybe people who are verbally gifted or domain experts will have an advantage when prompting,
yeah.
provided they have some mental model of how AI works.
Well, you also have to have the expertise in that specific field that you're wanting to
Exactly.
know to
Exactly. You need
put it in the
both.
context. Yeah. Because it
You need
won't just
both.
automatically go to it unless you provide some more extra context to it. Anyways, I thought that was pretty fascinating. So AI is your doctor's assistants. The number of publications on medical, so this is publications on digital twins. Digital twins are essentially there's going to be an atomically correct twin of yourself that's in the computer, and they can run sims on it, stuff like that. At least I think that's my understanding of it. There's digital
So
twins
also going bald, slightly
yeah,
overweight.
they can find out what's going to happen based on your genetics, basically.
Yeah.
It all comes down to the AI is able to decode protein molecules and DNA, RNA, that type of stuff at a level that's just superhuman. And that's just the way that's going to be in that one. All right, there's one more thing I want to look at here that's kind of interesting, and that's the global distribution of data centers. And as you can see here, the dark blue is the heaviest amount of data centers, and the light blue or white is either no data available or very little. So you will notice that the biggest concentration of AI data centers, I'm sorry, this is just data centers, is the United States of America by far.
Like
Then followed by
5,000
China.
plus, right?
Yeah, it's easily over 1,000 for sure.
Yeah, in Europe, it looks like Germany, and you have the UK.
Yep.
Looks like some stuff going on in Australia. So
Yeah,
interesting.
it's us, China,
The
and
narrative,
Germany, basically.
and then you wonder always the narrative out there, right? That falling behind, China's going to win. And you look at the spin, the private investment spin, you look at the actual number of data centers. Now, the place we talked about earlier, where China may have the advantage, is going much more heavily into state-directed power construction.
Yeah.
So putting up lots of nuclear power plants, using coal, burning it like crazy. And that's where we came to the idea of putting data centers in space, right? So you could use pure solar energy. But it's always good, I think, to look at these charts, but be careful and think about the priors. What's actually the assumptions behind them? And what is the argument actually being made? Is there an argument, or is it just pure facts? And relate it to your own situation. Like, are you trying to do a startup? Are you in a corporation trying to figure out what to do in strategy? Are you in government? It's not always clear. You read it differently depending on your priors, right?
Absolutely do. Okay. And that's a very interesting report. Again, it's very long, so I suggest you go read it, take a look at it, just thumb through. It's got some really cool graphs, and it's laid out really well, so you can quickly find something that's probably interesting to you specifically. But definitely check it out. And again, that's the Stanford AI Index report for 2026.
Hey, you've just watched a clip from Show Your Priors podcast. We hope you liked it. Check out our main channel for full episodes. We're also anywhere podcasts are found. Give us a like, subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything, but helps us out a ton. We'll see you back next week.